GLAM, Los Angeles.
Hi, Kirby. Hi, Sarah. Welcome to Los Angeles.
All right, let's get right into it. Our guest today is all the way from across the pond. We're honored to have him. He is a makeup artist. He is the founder of Made by Mitchell, and he has taken the makeup world by storm. You've probably seen him on your FYP. His brand has this beautiful, colorful packaging, innovative formulas. Really, if you could describe this brand, it would be fun and innovative.
Yes.
So not one word, two words. He has so many accolades and he's so young. Last year, he sold $2 million on TikTok Shop in 1 week. And this was really when TikTok Shop was starting to pop off. Like not a lot of people were doing it. This past June, he sold $1 million in 12 hours on TikTok Live. So he was on TikTok Live for 12 straight hours. I tip my hat.
Cannot wait to hear more about that.
His curve cases have been lauded as inclusive for all skin tones. Our girl Gloria has shouted him out plenty of times, and he's done all of this at just 26 years old. So please welcome to Los Angeles, Mitchell Halliday. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so exciting. And thank you for lovely words as well. That means a lot coming from people like you. Yeah, it's really cool. Love Gloria, by the way. Best ever. But yeah, so excited to be here. Can't wait to just get into it.
Yeah. She loves you.
She's just such a beautiful, fresh voice in the industry, and I think she was so needed, you know. And I think what I love about Gloria is what she does. She doesn't need to do. Nobody needs to do that. It's our jobs to educate ourselves, but she takes that responsibility and owns it and does it so well in such an exciting way in some ways. And yeah, I'm very blessed that we got to even send her something, you know. So yeah, love Gloria, and I'm so happy for all the success. She deserves every bit of it. She really does.
And when you get her approval, then you know
Oh my
you're
God.
doing something
Oh
right.
my God. I slept very well that night. Very well.
You're scared at first when you see her bring up your package, and then she's like, oh.
Well, do you know what? Like, I think because ever since we started the brand, I've always wanted it to be inclusive. That's been the main thing, whether it's inclusive for skin tone or how someone sees himself in a campaign. Inclusive, it doesn't just come in black and white, you know. So I've always believed in my product. So I wasn't necessarily scared because I knew that I'd done it perfectly. I knew it. I believed in it so much. And I knew it was also something that no other brand has ever done in the way I've done it. And again, we just turned 4 years old like a few days ago, and not necessarily being owned by a big conglomerate and being able to do this, it just kind of sets the tone that it's possible. It's really not that hard. And yeah, it was just such an honor, honestly. But again, I did definitely sleep very well. I really did.
Okay, Mitchell, we have to ask, what is on your beautiful face? What are you currently obsessed with?
Well, I am actually currently, I'll talk about what's for my own brand. I've got my moisturizer, my eye cream, Keen Screen, and I Fly Sky High, which is just like my little combination. I've got a Beam lip gloss in the shade Superfood.
Yeah, I cannot stop
No,
looking
we
at
keep
your lips.
staring at
oh
your
my
lips.
God.
The Beam glosses, they're great. Fenty Beauty, the Butter Drop, you know, the squirty one, incredible. I've gone through so many bottles of that already. Holly actually bought me that for my birthday, and I was out of it in about a week because I just lathered myself in it. I've got Mitchum deodorant on, the only deodorant. And have you ever heard of this, Mitchum?
We talk a lot about, we like try to get recommendations for deodorant from our listeners, and we
I've heard of Mitchum, but I haven't tried it yet.
Okay, well, I mean, I don't
out.
recommend obviously not showering for like 3 days. However, I feel like it would withstand those 3 days. It's really strong. And then I have, oh my God, my hair is so crispy, but I've got an event this evening, so I'm waiting to wash it till then. But I've got Aesop hair polishing, great product. Probably mixed with lots of other gels as well. And then I have Initio Musk Therapy on, which is my favourite scent ever.
Ooh.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Love it. Have you ever smelled that?
No.
Oh my God, you need to smell it. It's incredible.
I mean, you smell great, but I did not realize.
Yeah. Are you a big fragrance person?
I love fragrance. I have hundreds. It's definitely a thing that I probably was addicted to at one point. And then I realized when I've moved quite a few times over the last few years, and trying to move all of those fragrances is not fun. So I did slow down. a little bit because who can get through that many fragrances? It's ridiculous. But yeah, I love fragrance so much. I'd say that's like my, outside of beauty, mainly beauty, that's like my splurge, you know? Yeah.
Totally. Okay, so for the listeners who may not be familiar with you and your career trajectory, how would you describe your brand and your beauty ethos?
I think the brand, again, you kind of hit it on the head. It was about having fun, but also about innovating as well. Funnovating, if you want to give it a made-up word, which I clearly love to do. Blush, which is obviously a made-up word. But yeah, I think it's about, for me, it was really a bit of a passion project for me. It was about doing something where no one could tell me no. Like, it was all my idea because I'd done collabs before, and obviously with collabs there's limitations to things, so it was my chance to really just put my stamp on the beauty industry in a way that's got longevity, that isn't just going to be a viral video, it's got meaning. And yeah, I think I just really wanted the brand to touch people in more ways than just, oh, that's my favorite blusher. In the way of the story, and just inspiring little gay kids like I once was. You know, I've never been given the silver spoon, but I've always been given love, you know. So I feel like that is what I try to embody with the brand. Like, anyone that comes to the brand knows that they've got a place there. But my beauty ethos, I think it again, kind of similar thing. Have fun with it. It shouldn't be that serious. Makeup wipes off at the end of the day. If it goes wrong, wipe it off. Try again. But yeah, I think it is really just, don't take it too seriously. What's the point? Like, the world is too serious as it is. So I think when it comes to that time where either you're glamming or you're doing your body moisturizer with a candle on, it's just about just tuning in with yourself and stepping outside of your brain sometimes, you know. It's therapy.
Yeah.
So obviously you're an incredible artist, but your passion for, you know, entertaining started as you were a musician.
Oh, yes.
And you
Where
were on
did you
the
find
X
this?
Factor? The X Factor.
Yeah, so I've been a makeup artist for about 10 years now, probably just underneath. But from since before I can remember, I was singing. I did all of the above. But singing was like my passion. I loved it so much. I loved entertaining, loved performing. So I went to music college, did music at college. It was more so like a diploma in singing. And then X Factor actually approached our college to create a boy band. So I ended up being put into this boy band. We got like fast tracked through to X Factor. Really cool experience. But then it was the year where we had Sharon Osbourne, Louis Walsh, Nicole Scherzinger, and Simon Cowell. Great panel.
Yeah.
Great panel. And I'll be honest, I feel like it was actually the last year when X Factor was like really, really good. It was the most insane experience. Like, again, being so young and you've never really done TV before like that, it was wild. So did that, and then we got to just before judges' houses. So we ended up getting kicked off. And I don't know if you guys have seen the 6-chair challenge.
No.
Oh my God, it's ruthless. It was absolutely the most stressful experience of my life. So you're basically battling for these 6 chairs, but say there's 20 acts that are battling for it. So we actually ended up getting a chair. Then we had the chair taken away from us. Then we got the chair again, and then we had it taken away from us. And I think after that, I'd been singing for so long, and I just felt it had become more about making money in a way. I'm like, no, I need to earn a living here. And that just, I think it maybe sucked like the enjoyment out of it for me. So at the time, I'd always kind of been interested with beauty, but never really done anything with it. So then I ended up basically getting a weekend job in this salon in where I live, called Pout Patrol. And from there, it was history. And here we are now. God, maybe like 8 years later. Crazy.
What's your favorite song to perform?
My favorite song. I used to love singing Elvis.
Oh.
Yeah, I used to love Elvis.
Can we find you on YouTube singing
Not
Elvis?
today. Not while I'm here. No, but there'll definitely be one or
After
two
you
there.
leave.
Yeah, exactly.
After we'll leave, we'll pull it up and admire your
Yeah,
beautiful
just as long
singing
as I'm
voice.
out of the building, I don't mind. Because when I hear it now, my body just like shrivels up.
So when you were at the salon, what did you gravitate towards doing?
I think so. I worked there, and again, I was a self-taught makeup artist. So I'd never really been taught other than on social media, on YouTube, of like how to do something. But I worked there with the most incredible makeup artists. There was a makeup artist that I'd always kind of loved whenever I'd go to look at makeup in like a department store like Selfridges, for Ilamasca. Do you guys remember?
Yes.
Ilamasca?
Yeah. Wow.
So I was obviously clearly into the colour, into the exaggeration, into expression, called Patty Baston. And she basically was this outlandish. There was no rules to it. It blended beautifully, but they'd use a million colours. It was insane. And that was really what lit a fire inside me, you know. It was just something so new and fresh. It was exciting, and I think that's where my love for it came, because I was like, oh my god, this is like a thrill. Like, I've never seen anything like this. Because again, one of my sisters, she'll do a little bit of glam here and there, but my mum is not a glam woman, and my other sister just doesn't really wear makeup, so I'd never really been brought up around it. I had my two sisters, obviously I had my mum, and never really thought about makeup. But again, I think it was probably a time in my life where I was trying to like find myself as well. So that was so far away from what I was at the time, or maybe what I thought I was. So yeah, it was just something that really kind of got the it intrigued me in a way. What's the word when you are? I've gone completely blank. No. When you are intrigued.
I feel like intrigued is
intrigued?
like a good
Yeah,
one.
perfect word.
Intrigued. I'm gonna leave it at that.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know what I'm trying to say, but yeah, I was really just mesmerized by it, by the color, by the glitter, anything like extra. That is what I wanted. So it was almost kind of like on the cusp of drag in a way.
Yeah.
And that was just something that, oh my god, even still to this day, I see it when it's all perfectly blended. But I know there's a million layers of something on, and how they still manage to get it that perfect. That is really what I think makes an artist incredible, you know.
Totally.
Definitely.
So working in the salon, you said you were intrigued and inspired by that one artist, but what timeline was this? Was this around the time where men weren't wearing makeup and became really popular on
it was
social?
actually kind of maybe just at the start, I
Okay.
feel. So I think this was maybe at the end of 2015, 2016, leading into it. But so I'd started in the salon, and I got really fully booked really quickly on weekends with clients, because back then it was like clients every weekend. That was like the way to earn money if you were a makeup artist in the UK. So my weekends were all full. But then I kind of wanted my weekends back, because my weekends for the years previous had always been dedicated to me singing in pubs or clubs or whatever it may be. So then I was like, I just want my weekends. So then I started teaching one-to-one lessons. And I do feel like at the time, not many people were doing it. But I'd really kind of mastered that, got really busy with my one-to-ones. And then from there, I'd stop doing my clients on the weekends. I'd work all week, God knows how many hours. And then I actually then started traveling the world, teaching the same classes that I was teaching in the one-to-one setting, but with thousands of people watching. I remember in 2019, actually, I did a 26-country South America tour across 6 months. So I went over there by myself. I didn't speak Portuguese or Spanish, didn't have a clue what anyone was saying. I was just like, yeah, see. It was insane. But I think, yeah, that was kind of the journey of my makeup journey. But also then, actually, I've completely missed something out. I actually went on, do you guys remember a show called American Beauty Star?
Yes.
I went on that show.
Oh, you did?
Oh, wow.
Honestly, I have lived a few lives. But yeah, I went on that. That was the season 1. So it was the first one. It was with Sir John. It was with Adriana Lima, like what the hell. Sarah Brown, who was like an old Vogue editor.
We know Sarah, yeah.
And then, God, there was the Victoria's Secret photographer. What was his name?
Oh, was it Nigel?
Long hair? Yeah, I think it was Nigel.
He's from America's Next Top Model too, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe it was America's Next Top Model. I
Okay.
think he's Australian.
Yeah, I think he photographed Victoria's Secret
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, I think one or
I
the
remember
other.
that.
Yes,
Yeah.
But yeah, again, I'd kind of got flung into this world of like, oh my God, I'm going back on TV again. This is not really what I thought I'd be doing. But it was actually for something that I truly was like so excited by. So everything kind of fell into place. And then that was in between when I started at the salon and then when I started traveling the world, because then obviously end of 2019 is when COVID happened.
Mm-hmm.
So then October 2020 is when we launched the brand. So
Wow.
yeah, it's
So-
always been one thing after another.
Were you, you did that, and then you were in lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
That was when you said, okay, I really want to focus on doing this for myself and like having my own, because you had done collabs in the past. And as you said, like when you work with a brand, you don't really get a full say so.
Yeah.
Sometimes they most of the time they say, hey, we have this product and we want you to align with it.
Yeah.
Are there any things that you want to change packaging wise?
Definitely.
But in terms of formula, you don't really get to say those things. So about Made by Mitchell, first of all, how did you settle on the color? And is it chartreuse? Is that the shade?
It's almost like a pastel lime
Okay.
in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, let's assess.
Yeah,
let's
bust-
assess. For anyone
You
that is
have-
visually watching,
Yes.
this is the color. Yeah, I'd say it's a pastel lime.
Yeah.
It's not quite as intense or like deep as a chartreuse, and maybe not as neon.
Right.
Because I didn't want neon because I felt like sometimes neon can be a little bit. It's not as timeless, I don't think neon is, even though I love neon. But I felt like it was something that could translate while still being fun, being very different
And
from other
super
brands.
distinct.
But it actually happened. It was not meant to be that color. I wanted it to be a banana yellow at the start, like a true banana yellow. And I got my first samples back of the brushes and the ferrule where obviously the metal is, and then obviously the actual handle of the brush had come back 2 different colors because obviously colors print differently on different materials, which I didn't realize at the time. And on the ferrule, it was my lime green that I have now, and I was like, oh my god, that is the color. So that's actually how we ended up getting the color. It was not intentional, and I'm so glad I did that because I think the banana yellow would have knocked me sick.
Yeah. So you settle on that color. What was the first thing that you thought about when it came to making your own brand? Were you like, this is the product I want to launch with, or this is the name that I want to have?
The naming of the brand, I was like, do we do Mitchell Beauty? Do I do Mitchell Cosmetics? Do I do Mitchell? And I was like, it just feels like very, Mitchell's created a beauty line, so Mitchell Beauty. It just felt very generic, which is just not what Made by Mitchell will ever be in any way, as long as I can control that. But yeah, and then I kind of felt like Made by Mitchell, before it had the name, was something that was going to translate into many other things as well. So I thought, instead of just keeping Mitchell Beauty or Mitchell Makeup, blah, 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 I thought, if I do Made by Mitchell, I was actually really inspired by like a barcode. Originally, this was our original logo, which is long gone. Thank God. Again, I would have been very sick of that. But it was an M in a barcode, and it, like, you know how you'll have like Made in China or Made in Italy, whatever. It was kind of like that, and my play on Made by Mitchell. Then obviously that evolved, and we ended up doing our other logo that we ended up settling for. But yeah, I think I just wanted something that again could live on for a long time, depending on no matter what I'm doing in that moment. And I think, and I always kind of hoped that Made by Mitchell would have an element of lifestyle to it as well. And yeah, that's why we settled on Made by Mitchell. And I'm so glad we did Made by Mitchell. So glad we did Made by Mitchell, because again, I think Mitchell Beauty, I would have just got so bored of that so quickly. Because I do get very bored very quickly.
I love that. You touched on this, Kirby's touched on this. The brand just like makes you happy when you look at it. It's like
I'm
very
glad.
joyful.
I'm glad.
We can tell that you wanted to like make beauty fun again, but the products are also really, really good. So when you were like thinking about like creating your own brand, and obviously you're in 2020, it's lockdown, you have a lot to think about. There's also so many brands that are existing and in existence. And then I feel like, Kirby and I, we started the podcast in 2019, and I feel like ever since then it's just been like a brand launch every
week.
single week.
Literally.
How did you want to make Made by Mitchell, stand on its own?
I think it was, for me, I always knew that there was no comparison in a way, because there is no other Mitchell, if you get what I'm saying. Kind of like how other founders, there's no other of that specific person. And I knew the impact that I'd already made on the industry and where I'd come from. Again, I wasn't necessarily I didn't have a traditional journey through makeup. I didn't do celebrity makeup artists, but I'd still amassed a huge amount of following, and every collab I'd done would sell out in hours, and I knew that there was power there to it. And I think that's because I always just did it my way, So that was really the only way that I could have launched a brand, if I just didn't necessarily take too much inspiration or like let someone kind of sway me in another way, because I knew that that's what would be authentic to me. But yeah, I think Made by Mitchell was just different because, again, it was very artistry led while still being fun, because I think a lot of artistry led brands kind of sometimes needs to be like a bit pro, and the packaging's black and silver or black and white, which is fine if that's your kind of thing, but it's just clearly not mine. So I wanted to reinvent that. Like, you can be a pro makeup artist that's not necessarily been trained in in the rankings, that's not a celebrity makeup artist. Like, there's so many different ways that people become makeup artists now, and I think some of the most talented makeup artists are the ones that aren't actually that haven't gone to like cosmetology school or anything like that. Like, for me, you learn on the job, and until you are given the opportunity to take that job, then you will never learn. So yeah, that was kind of what made By Mitchell was. It was kind of for the outsiders, really,
Yeah.
because I've always felt a bit like an outsider in the best way possible. I feel like it's a beautiful thing to be an outsider. So yeah, it was kind of made by Mitchell, made for everyone. That was really the real spearhead of the brand, definitely.
And then the products are also fun. The names.
Mm-hmm,
Let's talk about the names.
Yeah,
Because I feel like they're weird, like
Yeah.
like
Oh,
in a
yeah,
good way.
they're definitely weird.
We have Blursh, which was the
Blursh.
first product, right?
Yeah.
Okay. We have Curve Case, which originally, and I would love to know the decision behind that name, and then Shine Slime. Very fun, very you get like a visceral reaction
Yeah, exactly.
when you say these things.
I want every part of the brand to be almost like a visual and an emotional experience as well. Like whether it's an exciting feeling or you're emotional because you've finally found your shade. Like that's every bit of it needs to be an experience. That's my main prerogative at all times. But Blush actually came from it's a liquid blurring blusher. So
Blursh. Yeah.
And I remember when I actually first named it that, I think I'm from a place called Bolton in the UK, and we speak a bit like this, like we just have a bit of an accent, So I think a lot of people thought that I just couldn't say the word blush. So that was funny, but I was like, no, there's actually a story to this, and it actually isn't.
And there's
just
an
my
R in
accent.
there, yeah.
Yeah, there is that. It's a made up word. Some people hated it, but I think that's when you've done something all right. When people don't all agree with it. Curve cases, it was because it accentuates the curves of the face.
Okay, that did not click for me, so I love that you explained that because can you explain for people that may not be familiar with it, what is the curve case?
So the curve case it's a palette. So it's a pro palette that can be used by everyone. You've got your 4 bronzers and your 4 blushes in there. It's a creamy, balmy blusher and bronzer formula. Same formula, just in the different blush shades and bronzer shades. But again, I also have a product called the Color Cases, which they are cosmetic paints. So they can be anything from eyeliners to eyeshadow to lip liners to blush. Literally, you name it, you can do anything with it. So I'd noticed how well the Color Cases did first. And I thought, again, I'm all about, I love packaging. It's exciting, but I love when things aren't crazy in my kit. Like, I like convenience, Convenience can still look great and fun and exciting. So really, when I did the Color Cases, I was shocked at how many people actually were obsessed with them. So then I thought, I feel like we can elaborate here. And I think that's something that Made by Mitchell does really well. Something might do well, and we're like, oh, how can we take this further? So it's always about just listening to what people are reviewing and what their expertise are saying back, So then the Curve Case came around because I was like, right, we've got our Blush, which is a matte liquid blusher. It's like a soft matte texture. And then how can I do something for those that like a glossier cheek, like something a bit more high shine, not as dry, blah, 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 because a lot of people did think that the Blush was too dry for them. But that's kind of what it was created for a matte blush that is not going to budge. So then I was like, okay, let's do something a bit more glossier, and I feel like that really, Blush blew us up massively. Do I think it was necessarily because of the formula and the product itself? I don't know, because even though it's an insane formula, I think it was more so like the name. Again, that kind of everyone saying Blush. I'll be honest, when we first started TikTok, everyone was just like, what is Blush? And that the views went up and everyone was like, Blush. Especially if people hadn't heard of the brand before as well. They're like, why are you saying Blush? So I think it was the marketing of the Blush that really blew it up at the start. But the Curve Case, again, I've never seen a product like it on the market. I don't know why brands haven't done it sooner, but it's just a great, great product. And I think I can't wait to keep going with it because there's so many more things I want to do with it. But yeah, I think the Curve Case really did blow up because it was like, okay, Made by Mitchell isn't like just a brand that just creates colourful products. He actually knows what he's doing about colour theory, about undertones, about textures, So the Curve Case for me is like, Blush put us on the map, and then the Curve Case locked us on, Yeah.
And I think Gloria, when she talked about the Curve Case, she was swatching the contour shades, and she was saying these 2 shades are very similar to each other, but that's how they should be based off of lighting and color theory and things of that nature. And I think that's why so many people, especially those of our friends who are deep to dark skin, they gravitate towards that because they feel seen and they feel like their concerns or I don't want to say gripes, but like rightful gripes are being heard.
No, absolutely, because that's how can you create really anything. It doesn't just have to be beauty. How can you create a product and then say, you don't deserve to be in my lineup? First of all, they might not even care. They might not even want to be involved in whatever you're doing. They probably don't if you're not including them.
Right.
But, so kind of like, what are you even saying there? But I think at the same time, it's just always been important for me. I actually have a story. So when I used to do clients, again, self-taught, so I'd never really learned at the time about doing different skin tones. And I remember I had my first black girl in to do a makeup, and I was like, oh my God, I do not have any makeup. I had 3 foundations, 3 Illamasqua foundations. I had a white one, literally a black one, and then one right in the middle. And I just had to mix. I mixed it with concealers, and I was like, she looked gorgeous at the end, I'll be honest. I did do okay. Wasn't my best work by any means. And I remember afterwards, I said to myself, I never, ever, ever want to come out of an appointment again and feel the way I didn't feel like I had done her justice. Mm-hmm. She was a paying client just like all the rest of my other ones were. And again, it wasn't a bad makeup, but I know it wasn't my best. And I've always strived to do my best for anyone. And literally that weekend, I remember I'd got all my cash from my appointments because I used to get loads of cash. It was a great time of my life. Don't get any cash anymore. But I used to get I got all my cash, and then I literally went. It's just as Fenty dropped all the foundations, and I went and bought like maybe 20 foundations.
Wow.
I think I'd probably spent my entire amount of cash because I thought I will never let that happen again. So then when I actually started the brand, that's always stayed inside me, because, this is what I think some people don't speak about, and I think it's okay to talk about it. You're never going to know everything, ever. But also, unless these conversations are had, or unless you're put in that position, how will you ever know, How will you ever actually learn and say, I didn't know how to do black skin, didn't know how to do it. But after that, I made sure I taught myself on the products that I needed, on the differences of applying makeup on white skin or black skin or Asian skin. That was like my main thing from that moment onwards. And again, I think that is why the brand is so truly inclusive, because I'm not just creating a dark shade of something to be like, oh, look what we've done. I'm like, no, actually, I want this to be through and through, whether it's in the education of the brand or whether it's in the imagery of the brand. Like, it's so rooted to the heart of Made by Mitchell. And again, I think that's because the heart of Made by Mitchell is my heart. So, but yeah, that's, I think sometimes that story that I've just told, some people would probably find that a bit awkward to talk about, but again, it's just taking accountability. It's so easy to do and be like, yeah, I didn't know enough then. I didn't know enough, but I made sure after that moment onwards that never, ever happened again, because anyone that sits in my seat or anyone that buys my products deserves to get the best out of it, So that was, it was a real turning point in my journey with makeup. And I'm so glad that it happened to me. It might have been a bit embarrassing at the time, and I felt maybe a bit shamed because I felt so bad that this beautiful woman hadn't had my best work. But I truly think that's what's made me not only the artist that I am today, but also the founder that I am today as well, because that'll just never, ever happen on anything associated with Made by Mitchell. Never.
Thank you for sharing that.
No, of course.
That's
Love that.
awesome.
Okay, we have to talk about TikTok.
Mm-hmm. Oh, of course.
As Kirby mentioned.
What's TikTok?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm like, huh?
You've been uber successful on it. Has there been any downsides to TikTok Shop? I think, there's, especially if you're like, reading the articles online about it, there's been some criticisms. But for you personally, like, how do you feel about TikTok Shop, and like, has it affected your brand's image for better or for worse?
I think it all is perspective. I think when we first started TikTok Shop, it was way before it launched in the US. I think we were kind of like a bit of a pilot scheme to see if it actually was going to work anyway, And obviously the UK is like this compared to the US. So when it came to logistics, like distribution, it just made more sense to do it in a smaller territory. So when we first launched, I remember it was maybe 2 years into the brand, maybe just under 2 years. And I'll be honest, Made by Mitchell was doing nothing. We were doing like 20 orders a month, which was a very scary time because we had a heavy amount of stock. 20 orders a month, and we was just like, I felt so uninspired by the brand. I didn't really love what I was doing. I didn't really know where it was going, which again, I do think comes in times of fear. Like, oh my God, you just want to run away and you don't really want to invest your heart and your soul into it. But again, we still had all this stock to get rid of at the time. So that had obviously been going on for maybe about 6 months, where we was kind of like ignoring it. But then all still knowing it's there, it's the elephant in the room, like this stock is not selling, what are we going to do? So then I remember Gab, who basically is head of our TikTok management now, basically she joined the team and she said, you need to get on TikTok. I wasn't even on TikTok at this point, not even TikTok shop, not even TikTok. I was like, oh my God, I hate TikTok. It's just kids dancing, because it kind of was at the time.
Yeah.
It kind of was. But then again, I didn't really have a choice. Like, we had to try something new, and TikTok shop had kind of just started rolling out very, very lightly at this point. And I remember we did our first TikTok shop live, which is obviously the shoppable lives. And we did the same amount of orders as what we were doing in a month in 2 hours. So we did the 20 orders. And again, I look back at that now and I think about the 20 orders compared to what we do now. And I'm like, that's just insane that I was so excited by that. But I also think it's, again, an amazing thing for people to know, because I was over the moon with those 20 orders. And I never really realized that they'd then go to sometimes 20,000 orders. Like, it's insane.
Oh my God.
So it's, you never know where it's going to end up. So I think at the time, we didn't have anything to lose, because we'd kind of like, we just have a hell of a lot of stock, so we need to start selling it. So I think at the start, if I listened to people say, this is going to cheapen your brand, this is not elevating the brand at all, I probably wouldn't have done it. But again, I didn't have a choice. I had to get rid of it some way. Because the stock had just been sat there, and obviously there's sell-by dates and all this kind of stuff. So the pressure was on, basically. And again, a lot of people didn't understand TikTok Shop at the time, but I think because I was almost desperate in a way. I was like, well, I have to try something. We weren't in like any retailers at this point. We were on some online retailers, but that was just kind of a separate part of the business for us. And we give it a go, and then very, very quickly, actually, we basically pioneered the TikTok Shop platform. I think even I feel like I can say this, but even like the platform that you see over here in the TikTok Shop USA, we kind of built the back end of that, because we really work closely with TikTok Shop from a brand's point of view, not necessarily from like the customer's point of view, but from the brand's point of view. How can we get the best out of this brand, out of this setup? So even like my head of operations, Sarah, she basically would go back and forth with them every day and be like, nope, this is wrong, change this to this, we need this plugin, we need this, and really kind of customize it, not just for us, but for every brand that was onboarded onto TikTok. So I think because we had that very early relationship with them, we've had so many opportunities from TikTok. But yeah, I think going back to your question about affecting the look of the brand, I guess, again, that is all about opinion. Me personally, I think it's a new way of shopping, and I think most people that aren't doing it are probably scared of doing it because of maybe it doesn't align with being high end or whatever. I don't care about anything like that. I'm just like, come on, let's try something new, try something fresh. It's clearly doing very well. We went from doing those 20 orders in a month. The first live we did 20 orders in 2 hours. And then, like you said at the start, last year we did $2 million in a week for a small indie brand that isn't backed by huge investors. That's insane. And then in June just gone, we did $1 million in 12 hours. So it's clearly working. And I think a lot of people have now, and I know we're a lot of people's and a lot of brands' inspiration to then go and try it. And that's an honor, because I think back when we first started, they were probably the ones that were like, oh God, Mitchell is really tackifying his brand here. But again, it's opinion, isn't it? And I think it's obviously not for everyone. Me personally, I don't necessarily think TikTok Shop is really for the higher end brands. I think it's for people that shop a bit more in a fast-paced way, that maybe don't want to sit there and think about what they're buying too much. They just kind of want to be sold something. So yeah, I don't think TikTok Shop is the platform for every single brand, but I think every single brand should, I think they should embrace it in whatever way they are capable of, definitely. But yeah, TikTok Shop changed the brand's trajectory in so many ways. It allowed us to get into Boots in the UK. We did the biggest ever rollout in Boots. We did 95 stores. The one before that that was their biggest at the time was 30 with Fenty. So then we did 95 in the space of a few days. And again, we are nowhere near where Fenty's at right now. And Fenty, as I said, the story at the start about the foundations, has always been a big inspiration of mine. But again, it just, when people do say, oh, you're just cheapening the brand, I'm like, well, explain that, explain those moments. And again, it's the power of virality, isn't it? So I remember we're actually launching in our first American retailer next year. And I basically, I can't obviously say which one.
I know.
Dying to know.
Yeah, but
We can guess, we can guess.
Yeah. I basically did a video and I went into said retailer and basically put my products on the store shelves. And again, the video went like crazy viral. And 2 days later, I got a call from said retailer.
Yeah.
So again, it's about being clever. It's also about using your superpower. I am the superpower to the brand. So it's about me being in it and going there and making noise and doing these things. So yeah.
And being
TikTok shop.
comfortable,
Exactly.
being perceived.
Exactly.
Because it is really hard putting yourself out there and getting praise or criticism.
Yeah,
It can
absolutely.
be very difficult.
Absolutely.
So being willing to, as we like to say, climb cringe mountains.
Yes.
if you
Oh my
need,
God, absolutely. And I think that
spit
is
the flag
there's too
in.
much ego sometimes. And I think
100%.
ego is something that can really stunt someone's growth. Because if you already think you're too good to do something, then okay, stay there then.
Yeah.
Whereas we're human. We all have egos, don't we? We all have our moments where we think we're too good for something or not good enough for something. But I do really try and keep my ego at bay because who am I to say no? I'm not doing that. I'll give it a go, and if I don't enjoy it, then I won't try it again. But unless you've tried it, why not? You know. But again, it's that fearlessness that I think has really allowed the brand to really climb to the heights that it has so quickly. Because again, it's only been 2 years on TikTok Shop. It's a 4-year-old brand, but I really feel like the brand came alive on TikTok Shop, definitely.
Okay, we want to do a rapid fire with you
Okay.
before we wrap things up. But I did want to ask, have you ever gotten pushback on a product you wanted to launch from your team?
Ooh.
Or
did
has
I?
everyone basically been they honor your perspective and your thoughts?
I think they honor my perspective. But let me think.
And it seems like you're very thoughtful behind.
Yeah,
the product.
everything is thought of. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, if you've seen our collections, they don't look like anything else.
No.
I think maybe at the start, I think maybe the curve cases were maybe a little bit of a worry because it was a bigger weight product. It was a higher price point, which was something for us that we weren't really doing at the time. But again, I think you've got to trust your team. And me being not just the face, but also the artist of the brand that knows everything about every formula that we've ever created, that's their job to trust me in that sense. Does that mean that every product I've created has been successful? Absolutely not. So, it's part of having a brand. You learn, what does my customer want? Does it mean that the product isn't amazing? No, it's just maybe not what your customer needs and wants in their life. So, yeah, I don't actually think we've ever had pushback on any formula.
Have you discontinued any products before, Mitchell?
I discontinued certain, have I discontinued things? I think discontinued shades,
Yeah,
those
shades, that
kind of
makes
things.
Okay.
Like whether it's been a limited edition drop or eyeshadow palettes. Yeah, we actually did discontinue eyeshadow palettes. So that's what the brand kind of started off as, an eyeshadow palette brand. But I was so bored of eyeshadow palettes.
Will you
every
bring it
brand was
back?
doing it. We started bringing it back again.
Okay.
Just in a different format.
Yeah.
Something a bit more elevated. I think every year you should try and elevate to in one way or another.
Yeah.
And this year it was just kind of like, okay, let's put a palette in a collection when it makes sense, not just because it needs a collection.
Right.
And for a long time, we actually started, instead of doing themed collections, it was more so purposeful collections. Like, let's drop baked luminous bronzers or baked luminous blushes, rather than it being part of a collection that we then discontinue when it sells out. Do something that is going to actually build the stand-alone products for the brand and the core line, But yeah, discontinued. Mostly probably just shades. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Rapid fire. Sarah, you kick it off.
All right.
I'm nervous.
Favorite account to follow on TikTok?
Ooh.
Doesn't
Matt and Josh.
Oh.
I'm obsessed with them. It's these two gay guys. They're a couple from Australia, I think.
Yeah.
Were they?
Oh my God.
No, that's a
that's
different.
right. Okay.
Those are two different gay Australians
Oh, okay.
that we love as well.
Okay, but
But
Matt
not
and
them.
Josh, you need, if you love interior, then you need to follow them. They are insane, Matt and Josh. Yeah.
Okay.
You have to pick one product of yours that everybody should buy.
Curve case.
Curve case.
Curve case.
Okay.
It's a game changer. I'm
It
telling
is.
Pick one beauty icon. Who is it?
You. Oh God, this is hard. Beauty icon, RuPaul.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love that answer. Is there a person that you haven't done their makeup and you would die to do their makeup? Or actually you never want to do their makeup because you would just be freaked out?
I am the biggest Beyonce fan on planet Earth, but I could never do her makeup. I would, first of all, I don't,
Yes,
not
you
that,
can.
no, I couldn't, I don't even think I'd be able to be in the same room as her.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
But yeah, Beyonce is just like, I think she's paved the way for so many artists, whether you're a musician or, you know, a beauty icon, you know? But yeah, I think she is someone that I just love her so much. She makes me want to cry. But yeah, I could not. No way could. I'll leave it to Raquel or Sir John.
Yes. All right. What's the best beauty tip you've ever learned as a makeup artist?
Don't follow the rules. Break them.
Love Mitchell. This was so fun.
Thank you so
we
much for
loved
having
being
me.
able to
Yes.
share your story. You're such a breath of fresh air. we
thank
love
you.
talking to you. We
Thank
love your
you.
products as well. Tell everybody where they can find Made by Mitchell.
So you can find Made by Mitchell on TikTok. We have a Made by Mitchell TikTok Shop USA account, which is MBM USA. Mitchell on Instagram, and obviously Made by Mitchell on Instagram as well. But yeah.
And Shop in Boots.
Yes, and Shoppers in Boots, and
next year-
coming soon to a store near you.
And next year somewhere local for
Yes.
our
Do you guys have
Americans.
you guys guessed which one it is? Or?
Okay, I have a thought. I have a feeling, but I don't want to say it if
Yeah.
it's wrong. So
Okay.
we'll
Yeah.
offline. about
Okay,
it.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, you have to tell us. Before.
Oh no, I'll definitely tell you
We're
guys.
editors. We know how to keep
Yeah.
secrets around here. Thank you so much, Mitchell.
No, thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here. Thank you.